Hey YouTube, what if you could have only 5 specific bushcraft or camping tools for the rest of your life? Which ones would you bet the rest of your life on? What 5 would you choose? How would you even decide? In 5 to Survive, we ask experts what tools they would choose. We pick their brains about why and give you 5 things to consider adding to your gear. We also learn a little about the skills you need to use those tools. Whether you learn something or just enjoy listening to outdoor geeks talking about their gear, please subscribe and hit the notification button. We also have a companion podcast that includes all of the discussion in the YouTube episodes, but it includes more in-depth discussion with the experts, the why behind their what of their choices, and some laughs. I'm Joe Bassett, this is Valiant Outfitters, and you're about to discover 5 to Survive. In this special holiday episode of 5 to Survive, we're going to help you answer the question that's on everyone's lips this holiday season. What the heck should I get the ham radio operator in my life? Okay, maybe it's not on everyone's lips, but it's still a daunting question. Never fear though, we have 2 guests who will help us choose just the right gizmo, what's it, gadget, or doohickey. I've asked Scott Roberts to join us again with his insight as product expert at gigaparts.com. He'll have a great perspective on what gifts the experienced ham will enjoy getting this year. And we'll be joined by newly minted ham Steve Robbiano. Steve was one of the charter ham cram students on Outdoor Core and has earned both his technician and general licenses in the last few months. As a brand new ham, Steve will give us a look into what the newbie is looking for this holiday season. I've asked Scott and Steve to each select 5 or so related items at 5 different price points that will bring peace and joy to the hearts of even the Scroogiest ham. In their lists, you'll find 5 gifts for every budget, all the way from under $5 all the way up to, well, if you gotta ask how much, you probably can't afford it. So here you go. Everything you'll need to know to make this the best Christmas Hanukkah ever, at least for the ham radio operator in your life. I'm Joe Bassett. This is Valiant Outfitters, and you're about to experience the 5 to Survive holiday gift episode. Well, hey, as promised, here we are with Scott Roberts. Figured that'd be the one that I'd mispronounce. And Steve Robbiano. Some of you on 5 to Survive, you've already met Scott. He did our last one when we talked about the 5 radios to have. And Steve is one of our very first enrollees in the ham cram on Outdoor Core. And then Steve, you went ahead and you did the general exam on your own, didn't you?
That's correct. Yes, I did.
Yeah, well, fine business on you. I'm a little bit salty that you didn't buy the ham cram course. You didn't wait for me to get it out.
Oh, I bought it anyway.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'm not salty anymore. That's great. Steve, so Steve is pretty new to ham radio. You've had your license a little over a year?
Coming up on a year, almost to the day.
Coming up on a year. So this is going to be really nice because, Scott, you've had yours for over 10. Have you had to renew your license yet?
I just renewed my license in September.
So we have somebody with some experience and someone not. And this is a little different in 5 to Survive. Normally in 5 to Survive, I don't know what the guests have chosen until they actually show it on screen. But because this one is a little different, and I'm assuming that you have picked gear, neither of you have picked gear that you already have. So we don't have it to really show. I mean, it wouldn't make sense to be saying, hey, this would be a gift I'd like to get, and I already have one, unless you're looking for redundancy. So this is going to be a little bit different that way. But the idea here is to give people that are new to ham radio or have been in it a little while, or they even have friends or loved ones that are looking to buy gifts for them, they can slip this into the YouTube playlist and give some ideas. So, if people who are in, Scott and Steve's circle of loved ones and friends Here's what they're asking for, and we're going to do it in different increments. We have 5 that we're going to go through, and there might be more than one thing listed in there, but it's going to give us a really neat look at what somebody just starting out in the hobby might be looking for and what somebody with more experience in there. So let's just go ahead and jump into it. In the under 25, I want to look at, Steve, what you had, you'd look for, because I like these little gizmos and gadgets that you're looking at. What were that you were looking at under $25 for a gift?
Well, the first one is way under 25. It's $7.15 for 10 of them, and it's the covers for PL 259s. I mean, it sounds like a silly thing, but I'm starting to accumulate cables. I have cables running up to an area that I don't have connected to an antenna all the time. And rather than having water get into the $150 cable or even the $50 cable, you stick a 75-cent cover on it, watch where it's positioned so that it's kind of like an umbrella over the top of it. And they're great. They really are. I put them on just about every cable I have, even if it's sitting in a box, because it protects them from getting banged around and things of that nature.
Steve, the other thing that protects, and I use them, I keep them in my truck, and that is when I go through a car wash, I take the antennas off the truck and put those screw covers over top of that to keep the water out of those as well. So excellent choice. I like that.
Yeah, by all means. Yeah, no, those work really well for me. You want me to keep going?
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Want me to keep going on the under 25?
Well, I want to hit on what Scott was saying there. And for people that are new to the hobby, this is really good because you're really paying attention to that water incursion. Mm-hmm. And that's what these are good for. And what's funny is, Steve, I have to confess, I didn't even know that you could buy those aftermarket. I've saved all of them that came with my cables. So you gave me something to buy for myself, even though I've had my license for 11 years. I had no idea that you could buy them that way. So good on you. Yeah, let's go ahead and look at the other one as well.
Sure. Well, the other one, Joe, when I was first talking to you about setting up my shack, and I think you, Scott, and I were on a call together, and I was just looking for jumper cables. Probably the wrong term, but you get my idea of, okay, I've got antenna cable that comes in, I've got it into a switch. I don't need something that is really difficult to bend to make that tight angle. I don't have that much space right now. So going with an RG8X cable, I'm never running over 100 watts. And also I do run 70 centimeters every once in a while, but I'm not running at the real extreme of a higher frequency than that. They work nicely. They really do. Do they have the same loss as LMR 400 cable? No. They're for patching around, and as I get more experienced, I find that, okay, this is the connections that I want to make. But off that switch, here's a cable that I can just screw into a portable, something I can screw into from one radio to another, and I've got another route to an antenna. So that works out well. That's just a 6-foot example of that. It's about $17.95. So,
well, and you bring up an excellent point about, there's not as much shielding on those, but where a lot of new hams get confused is they think, oh, if I'm going to be on HF and talk around the world, I need more shielding than I do for VHF and UHF, when it's actually the opposite. You need more shielding for VHF and UHF. And you're also right, those short runs, and no, jumper is the term that you would use because we're just jumping from here to there. And, as the viewers can see in the graphics that I'll be putting up there, that's what you would use if you want to go from your radio to your SWR meter, or your radio to your tuner, if you're doing a manual tuner, and then from your tuner to a switch. Now, I did want to ask you, though, I was fascinated in these two. You didn't choose something like barrel connectors, which would be great to have on hand. Did you just Did you think, all right, well, I've got to pick one or two?
Yeah, I was just trying to pick. I've got, barrel connectors. I've got a box of connectors. Uh, just go in there, look at what you're trying to connect, and rather than buying one, buy two or three, because
Or
they're
10.
they're very valuable. Very valuable.
Yep.
As you get your license and you have your license longer, you can never have too many jumpers and you can never have too many barrel connectors.
Well, and that's a great segue, Scott, because that's where, the first place I saw the difference between somebody just starting off. You're going to look for those little connectors, those little gadgets, those little doodads. And then you have somebody who's been in the hobby longer who probably has accumulated most of those. Scott, of course, buys more than he needs because he have friends like me who borrow them and then never return them.
Oh, yeah, that.
Most were originally Scott's. But then you look at Scott. Scott, what did you choose under that 25? Because I love the difference between what you both suggested.
So the other thing that a ham radio operator can never have too many of, and that is T-shirts that have some weird, funny saying on the front of them. Like the one that I was looking at that Joe will probably put up on the screen is, I might look like I'm listening to you, but in my head, I'm doing ham radio. And if you asked my wife, she would probably admit that, yes, that's probably what she even realizes that I'm probably doing. And then the other one that I picked when I was looking, because, T-shirts, and sometimes you're out doing an event and it's a little chilly outside. Now, I live in Florida where it's hardly ever cold except for this morning and tomorrow morning. And so the other one I picked was a long sleeve T-shirt that has a saying. It says the first social media, and it's got a picture of a ham radio on it. So just T-shirts like that are inexpensive, that you can never go wrong buying that as a gift for a ham radio operator.
Yeah, especially the T-shirts. Somebody bought me one once that was just an SWR. I'm sorry, an S meter. That they just graphic designed onto a T-shirt, and they got for it's one of my favorites to have. Let's jump to like the more expensive stuff now. And again, Steve, I'm going to come back to you. I was fascinated that you did two antennas for different applications.
Yeah, I did. I have to admit, I did pick a lot of items that I have, but I would suggest them for somebody who is, especially somebody who's just getting started. The first one that I chose was a magnetic mount UHF VHF antenna. I have played around with several of those. They're not expensive, but boy, there can be a real quality difference. So I found that the brand Nagoya is quite good. Why I suggest anybody getting one of those is they are so flexible. Certainly putting on top of your vehicle. Well, I don't have a plate in my head, so I can't put it on top of my head. But putting it on top of your vehicle, and I keep one in my car. I can just flip it up there. Mind you, I do have antennas in the car too, but never can have enough antennas on the car as well. But I have behind the screen here, I've got storage shelves. Those wire rack shelves. I plunk one on there, and with 5 watts, I can hit the repeaters in my town, and I mean cleanly. I'm below ground, and I mean I'm just again to me what I've really become really interested in is antenna design and the things that change propagation. Certainly atmospherics, but also, okay, on this frequency, yeah, it'll worm its way around. This frequency, it just goes right through stuff, etc. So I would definitely recommend a Magmount UHF VHF antenna. The next thing that I have on there, and by the way, price around $35. So it's not a $500 antenna. I mean, you can get some really expensive antennas especially for UHF and VHF, but for me, I work a repeater a lot here in town. That works really well. Pardon me. The other thing that I'd like to bring up is there's a professor who does antenna design. Gentleman's name is Ed Fong, Fong, and he has a J-pole antenna. The ones that I have used and really like are ones that they send you. It's a kit, but the only thing you need to do is buy the right type of PVC pipe, cut it to length, run it down it, bang, you're set, and you've got about a 4.5 foot long PVC pipe that is then an antenna. I have that mounted. It's mounted probably about 18 feet off the ground on a deck, second floor deck. And, not to brag, but I'm hitting, not with 5 watts, but with a little more wattage, I'm hitting 60 miles away. And just if you didn't catch, I'm not in Florida. I'm in Colorado, where things like mountains and cold weather, and this is summer gear. I used to live in Florida. Just let's be clear. But it's just again the idea of what do I have to do to get out a little bit further? And on the Front Range in Colorado, that's the eastern side of the Rockies, there are quite a number of clubs that have repeaters. The good thing about the mountains is you can get a repeater up 3,000 feet above you, and it's line of sight to a lot of places. I've used that Ed Fong antenna out, heading out into the plains, probably with 50 watts. I have been able to activate repeaters that are over 50 miles, and it's great, really great. So Ed Fong J-pole antennas.
Yeah, when I saw those, when you sent those to me, number one, I don't think any ham radio operator, especially those that want to do emergency communications, can have mobile mag mount antennas because they work in so many different applications. In fact, I recommend guys get them, have that with your Go kit. Even if, like you were saying, 5 watts is not 5 watts all the time. 5 watts with the antenna on your radio, on your walkie-talkie or your handheld is different than 5 watts going into one of those mag mounts. So we'll tell guys to have that in their Go kit. And if they have a dual band on the outside of the shelter or whatever that isn't working, still taking one of those mag mounts and just find an air vent in the ceiling and stick that on it. Upside down doesn't matter. It's only horizontal or vertical. Yeah, exactly. So having that ready. And then I also like the idea of, a lot of hams today, when they're coming into the hobby, they haven't really done much in the maker area themselves. They haven't, home brewed and done that type of thing. And those Ed Fongs, I like it because it's kind of like Maker 101. Because even just measuring out the length of the PVC, you start to get an understanding of the length to cut your wires or to cut your antennas. If you're not handy at all, don't be intimidated by the Ed Fong stuff because there's nothing handy about it. I've even used them with kids and teaching them, all right, this is the very basic entry level of building a J-pole antenna. And you can get the concept of it from that. Now, Scott, again, here, I love this because we have the new ham, being very practical. It's like, all right, this is ham gear. And then you have, guys like Scott who have been in for a while. And it's like, oh man, I really don't need another antenna. In fact, my wife would throw me out if I had another antenna. So what'd you bring to the table, Scott?
So again, ham radio operators, we like to show off. So I picked 2 items that you can get from hamcrazy.com. And the first one is just a lighted call sign. They come in different shapes and sizes. They etch your call sign into glass or a heavy weighted plastic. You put it on a lighted display and put it up on a shelf and turn it on. And now your call sign is lit up for everybody that walks into your shack and see. Just kind of a cute little thing. They range from 25-ish to 40-ish, depending on what you get. And then the other one is, and I say that because if you look behind me, You can see my call sign up on a metal board. My wife actually made that, and then I 3D printed a tower that's got my call sign on the top, so you can never have your call sign too many places. But the other thing that I picked is a license plaque. Because the FCC doesn't send you a printed license anymore, a lot of guys like to have a nice display of their license. And they sell it in different forms. You can get it on a nice piece of wood that's etched into brass, or a brass looking plate, or they do it on plastic with a nice coating on it. And they come in different shapes and sizes and materials. And again, those are anywhere between 25-ish to 40, maybe $45. And again, it's just another thing to show off in your shack to say, hey, I've got my general license, or I've got my extra license, or even I've got my technician license, and here it is. And it looks like it's what you would print out if you downloaded your license and printed it out on a printer. It's the exact same information, looks like a real license.
Yeah, and it's interesting that I never would choose either of those to buy those for myself. I'm not big on displaying my call sign in that way, and I'm not sure why I'm not. But if somebody were to buy those for me, I'd really appreciate those.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
Somebody's been in the hobby for a while. I think that'd like be really cool. And that may come from me. I'm not a paper chaser either. When I work a special event station, I don't feel a need to get the card. I think the only one that I've ever done where I've requested it was the 13 colonies. Was when I got a clean sweep of the 13 colonies. And for anybody that's watching doesn't know what the 13 colonies is the week of the 4th of July. There are stations from each of the original 13 colonies. And Scott, you can help me with this. I know that there's also an extra one that's over in the UK.
Yep.
Is there?
And then there's 2 or 3 extra ones that are bonus stations that you can get as well.
Right. And so that's like the only paper that I've ever gotten for myself. And I want to ask Steve, is that, as a new operator, is that something that interests you as well? Getting that type of thing that kind of identifies you as an amateur radio operator?
Yeah. I have to say, I like the old fashioned neon clocks. Okay. Although I don't think I'd necessarily want to be operating a neon clock in my shack because of RF interference and, et cetera, et cetera. However, I like the look a lot. And I have been poking around trying to find the perfect neon clock, except there'll be LEDs instead. The ones radio stations used to have them, where they'd be the call sign, the four-letter call sign of the radio station with the clock, and the analog, and secondhand sweeping around. I just like the looks of them a great deal, and to have my call sign on there, yeah, I'd love to.
Joe, you said you weren't a paper chaser. The one that I'm the most proud of is I did do a 13 colony sweep, and I have that one, but I'm a last man standing fan, and they did a thing when they went off the air for the last one, so I did that. Now I didn't get a clean sweep, but I did get the certificate, so that was the only piece of paper that I was really excited about chasing. So yeah, we like to display things like that.
That's a pretty cool one. Now, as we go up a level, this is the one place where I'm pretty sure you both agreed. You both chose the same thing. And in the blog post I have that goes along with this, I picked the same thing.
Wow.
So I think you both picked an ARRL membership. Did you both pick that?
Yep.
And the handbook.
Yes.
Right. So, and again, this is really neat because while we had kind of a divergence between somebody relatively new and somebody who's established in the hobby, we've come to this place of, well, this is handy for a new person to have. And there's still a ton of really valuable information for somebody that's experienced to have. So, Steve, you are a member of the ARRL. I think all three of us are.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And do you have the handbook, Steve?
I do. I have it on electronic form just because there's some advantages to that to me as far as being able to do a quick search. However, I will also confess, because I'm older than both of you gentlemen, I like stuff to read. I need, and so being able to flick through and, and just look at things. Scott and I were talking a little bit before about, I am interested in propagation and antennas, and just getting into, well, first of all, the monthly magazines that are available through my ARRL membership, but then into the handbook, you start, it's like, oh, okay, well, what's this and what's this and what's this, and then I get to the point where I said to Scott, I said, yeah, I'm starting to read words I don't know what they mean, and it's great, and it's challenging, and it's it's something that I know will be an ongoing reference for me in all sorts of ways. So I definitely I saw Scott's choice. I was like, yeah, definitely, no question.
When you joined the ARRL, which of the magazines did you subscribe to? QST or what is the other one? Get on the Air?
Yeah, On the Air. I actually selected On the Air, and that is slated towards beginners. I was going to say novices, not certainly people with a novice ticket, but I've got my general ticket. There's still things in there that I find very interesting. This coming year, I'm going to be subscribing to the QST just because the level of the audience that they're trying to appeal to is a little more technically inclined. And the thing about having the ARRL membership is that you can get electronic copies of everything.
Yes.
No additional cost.
Right.
No, but like I said, I like to read stuff. So
yeah, Steve, I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to mention that it doesn't really matter which one you get. The one that you pick is the one you get the print copy of, but then you can download any of them. They've got the National Contest Journal, I think is what it's called, NCJ. They've got QEX, which is for those people who want to do where you want to get down into the electronics and you want to build kits and do things like that, and it describes all of that. And then you get QST, and then you get On the Air. So you can get all four of those electronic every month or every time that they come out. Some of them are every other month, and so definitely a benefit. And that's what I enjoy most about my ARRL membership, is all of the magazines and articles that you get. And then, like you said, the information that's in the handbooks that come out. And like I was telling you, I think I've got one from every single year since I got my license.
So Scott, you buy the handbook every year? I didn't know that.
Yep, I do. Yep, I buy it. And then because when you buy the print book, you can get the download as well. So I'll download it and put it on my iPad or on my computer. And if I'm looking at something, I do, like Steve said, I do the quick search, because you can look stuff up quick. And then if I want to sit down and look at it more detailed, I may pull the book out for that section.
Fascinating. Yeah, I didn't know that you're buying them every year. Do you find a substantive difference in them?
You mean from every year between year?
Yeah.
Sometimes there are, because things are newer and new technologies and new, like, okay, FT8 and different digital modes and different things. So there's a little bit of a difference, maybe not drastic, but they do look for new material to put in them every year.
Now I've got to ask, Scott, you get QST, right?
Correct.
Now, what's your favorite part of QST?
It varies. A lot of times to be honest with you, it's looking through the ads, because I love the ads that they've got in there to find out what's new, what's out there, what don't I have that I need to go get. So I can't, we got to hide that part from my wife. And then, but there's always some article, and it could be on a different topic, but there's always at least one article that I say, wow, I'm really glad that I grabbed the magazine and read that article. And it varies every month from what that article might be.
You answered the way I suspected you would, because again, this shows the difference between you and I. I immediately go, where do you think I immediately go when I read QST?
Well, you go to the table of contents to find out what articles are there, and then you find.
No, actually, I go to the table of contents because I immediately go to the vintage radio stuff.
Well, of course, that's right. I should have thought of that.
You know?
Yes.
So, and Steve, I want to ask you about on the air. What do you find the most valuable part of that? What article or column do you find in that to be most valuable for you?
I'd have to say it depends. A lot of times they're a lead-off topic. They had a great article on the effects of sunspots on propagation.
Yep.
Oh.
Even though I did understand it, the explanations are they're very accessible. They had one on summits on the air. That was very interesting. And, the radio club I belong to around here, we do parks on the air and do summits on the air, depending on the weather, at least once a month, that's just a lot of fun, a real lot of fun. You got to hike up to it. You become very aware of how much a battery weighs, how much room you want to put in that pack, et cetera, et cetera. So a lot of fun that way.
Yeah, of course. Well, Scott's in Florida right now, where I normally am. Right now, I'm in Maine. But yeah, in Florida, we don't get to do much summits on the air.
No.
We 200 feet.
Yeah, we have
200 feet.
Sand dune along the ocean.
Exactly. Yeah, our highest summit, I think, is 212 feet. I don't think it's any higher than that. I think that's the tallest that we get.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, here's where we start to diverge a little bit again. Because Scott, you went for some cool stuff we're going to get to in a second. But Steve, you went to an SWR meter. And one, I have a question to ask. Do you insist on an external SWR meter or just prefer one?
It was one of the first things I bought. Along with the radio. It was like same purchase, because I find especially a cross needle SWR, it tells me things and things that I'm beginning to the point where, okay, I know what's going on. It's very instructional as far as, like I said, what's the output power in this mode versus this mode. Surprise, it is different. The SWR, I've keyed up a couple of times and it's like, whoa, why is it 4-to-1? What's going on? Did I not put the cap onto that cable? And also, I like it because it's cool.
Yeah,
it's big. Yeah.
When you chose the Daiwa, I love that one. Now, do you own that one?
I do.
And I would say, if you're looking to buy one, say that you're watching this and you're looking to buy a gift for a ham radio operator, that cross needle,
yep,
for sure, is what you want to get, because it just gives you so much more information. And that Daiwa, again, like you're saying, I like how big it is.
Yeah.
It's really easy to read on that. All right, Scott, you're going back to your gadget stuff, your gimmicks. I love you're about gimmicks, man.
Well, now this one's not, because we're on 100 to 250. So I picked something that was good, and that's the Heil Pro Set 7 headset. That's a boom mic.
Pick the gimmick.
Okay, the gimmick. Because there are some times where my shack is in our office that my wife and I share. So there are times when I'm out here that I ought to have a headset and I don't. And if I were to get one, I would go for the Heil Pro Set 7. It is the most recent one, but all the reviews say it's the best one. And anything from Heil is excellent. They've got great mics and great headsets. So if I were to pick in this price range, I would definitely go with the Heil Pro Set 7.
Right, and of course, I'm teasing you about it being a gimmick because
Absolutely.
you are a headset with a boom guy, aren't you? You really like using that.
I like using it. I mean, right now I have a headset with a boom mic. So I have a separate boom mic and I have a headset that's a decent one, but it's not great. But it does the job. So, and I don't have to use it very often, but so I do like the idea of having both of those in one, that everything else is I don't have to talk as loud and she can't hear all the static on the radio. So that makes it much better.
Right, and I really don't want to sound like I'm dumping on Heil, because I've got the ultimate respect for Heil gear and what Bob Heil has done. Well, in fact, even before as a ham radio operator, for years I knew Bob Heil's name in the recording industry.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And then when I became a ham and I said, hey, well, what kind of coincidence is that? There's a Bob Heil in amateur radio too. It's like, well, of course it's a coincidence. It's the same guy. So yeah, great stuff. Now, I want to ask you, would you be comfortable taking something like that when you deploy?
The Pro Set 7 is a dual ear, and I would not. So if I were to, when I deploy, I would want something, if I did take one, I would want one with a single ear. And the reason for that is because you always, when you're deployed in a shelter or at the emergency operations center, wherever it might be, you always will have people walking up to you. So then you end up taking the headset off or pulling one of the ears back. And, so exactly like that, Steve. Yep. And I do that even here with my headset. So I would want one, and Heil has them that are one ear with a boom mic. So you've got one ear free and you can hear what's going on and still hear the radio very clearly.
Now, do you use a foot switch?
I do have a foot switch, but I also have a thumb toggle as well. So I have both hooked up to my radio, and depending on what I'm doing, which one I reach for.
Right. And I would say, if you're if the ham radio operator in your life likes to do emergency communications and might deploy, headsets are something that we recommend they all have, because it can be very noisy in that environment, and having that headset really helps.
Absolutely.
All right, now I'm going to switch this up a little bit. Scott, I'm going to go to you first for this 250 and up, because this is like one of those where I looked and I said, okay, that was left field. Did not see that coming.
So I always try to pull one like that on you. No, this one is interesting. It's called a Geochrom Atlas 4K. And the best way to explain it would be with a photo that Joe will put up. And basically it shows you a flat map of the world. It shows you where the gray line is. It shows you different information. It's got a clock on it. You can highlight different things on it. And it's just kind of one of those cool things. Like if you look over my shoulder, this shoulder, behind me, I've got a weather map going. Well, I also have something similar to this Geochrom Atlas. It's made by somebody else that runs on a Raspberry Pi, that I can put up on the screen in front of me, and it does the same thing. It's got satellite information, where satellites are and different things like that. It's just kind of one of those really cool things of useless information that you don't really need to know that you want to know.
Now, and you bring up an interesting point. I was shocked when I saw your list that Raspberry Pi didn't show up on it anywhere.
Well, only because it would apply into a lot of different things. And for buying a ham, a gift, I wouldn't recommend a Raspberry Pi because of anything else that you would have to get with it, like DMR, a DV Mega, or anything like that. So just getting the Raspberry Pi, it's $50. It's the other stuff that you have to add to it, and then it just starts to get a little bit confusing and convoluted.
Now, Steve, you spoke right to my heart, man. You came right at me with what you were looking at there. What'd you bring to the table for this higher dollar value?
Antenna analyzers.
Oh yeah.
Joe, can I drop down $1?
Yeah,
and hit
sure.
one other item I had on there, and that is the gutter antenna.
Right.
I currently rent my house. Actually, just bought one with a decent backyard, so look out. But I'm renting this house. It's in an HOA area. The concept of me putting up even a vertical is don't even think about it. So I came across an antenna that's made by Alpha Antenna.
Yep.
It is very nicely packaged. I mean, it's weatherproof. It is a great antenna. The way this works, I'm talking about it like folks already know what it is. The way this works is basically just a balun, or actually an unun, okay? So that it's manipulating the impedance that's presented back to the radio. And you literally drive a ground stake down, screw it onto that, and then you've got a little alligator clip that you clip to the downspout of an antenna. Now, is this a compromise? Oh yeah, it is. This is not going to be like, a 80-meter dipole. This is certainly not going to be like a beam antenna. But for well, how the heck am I really going to get on the air except for UHF, VHF? This has been really, really solid for me.
So before Joe jumps in here,
yeah.
Before he jumps in here, Joe lives in an HOA, and they let him know that they didn't like his antenna, that they couldn't see anyways, but they didn't like it. And Joe took his 2-story house, and I think he connected every gutter in the house together, and that's his favorite antenna.
It works. Joe is I'm sure it's pretty much the exact same thing, except it's just how is it packaged? But you're using just a 9-to-1 on yours?
Yeah, I put that on, and I drove a piece of conduit 4 feet long down into the ground, and then I just tapped in with self-tapping screws, and I wired to the downspout, and then, in fact, there'll be pictures here that I'll put with this while I'm explaining. Then I tied from one gutter to another gutter, and then from another gutter to the gutter up at the top of the house. And then I just ran a long wire across the top of the house. Now, one thing I have, and you could speak to this a little bit, Steve, I do have a lot of received noise from stuff in the house.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Which is something that has prompted me to start looking at devices, because right now I'm sitting here I have 3 computers that are on. I have screen. I have all sorts of electronics, and just because it's just also where I work, it's my my office when I'm at home. But things like, how much RF is being produced by that LED light bulb over there? Surprise.
Yep.
What can I do with grounding to maybe alleviate some of that, or with just RF chokes and things of that nature? It's necessitated me looking at the other sources of RF in my immediate area. Interesting. I mean, I got to play around with, is one downspout better? Or do I drop the other downspout down so it's touching the ground? And it really does make a difference on where the resonant frequencies are going to be. Mm-hmm. The next thing I will say, Joe, I think you got as good a thing going on there with a much less expensive part. Because it was probably about $30 for that 9-to-1.
Oh, no. Joe found that somewhere. He paid more for the piece of conduit going in the ground than he did everything else that he's using to put that together.
Cool.
I guarantee that. That's Joe.
Well, that's, I love it, man. I mean, if I look at, that antenna was that gutter antenna was $249. I can I could buy the 9-to-1 on for $25. That's a tenth.
I think I found that one field day. Somebody left it attached to a piece of coax.
Probably.
You know, don't want to throw it away.
Yeah, it's like, hey, somebody just left this on this coax attached to this antenna. Who would disregard something like that?
Right.
See, I have to admit, I'm kind of glad Joe went out of town because he left me to go help clean up some stuff at a ham who passed away, and so where we would normally pick through the stuff, I got to get everything. So I got some of that cool stuff that he usually gets.
You kept that from me.
Don't tell anybody.
It happens.
How am I going to stay in the hobby without the stuff I get from you?
However, having said all of that about the gutter antenna, they are more expensive. There's no question. But a good antenna analyzer.
Yes.
And there's two that I was showing, Joe. I have one of them. It's from Comet. Again, cross needles, works really nicely, but also has a digital trace to show you where the resonant frequency is, or actually where the SWR is for individual bands. I really like that Comet. As I've said a couple times already tonight, I'm a visual kind of person. It helps me understand what's going on when I can see some kind of a representation, the interplay between two needles or a graph that dips down. The other thing about this Comet that's really nice, even though it's $380, it goes all the way up to 70 centimeters.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, which is really nice, especially when I've been playing around with mobile antennas, and just be like, okay, well, what if I move it over to here as opposed to that? You know, so it helps me with a lot of what ifs. When I was first starting out and I was trying to lay out radials around an antenna, I learned a lot about how long does it have to be? What happens if I shorten it? What happens if I move it? So it gives me that visual representation. The other ones that I'm very interested in, and if somebody's listening and wants to buy me one, are the ones by Rig Expert. Those are totally electronic. The real advantage I see there is that you then can pull that information off of the device. So now I think Comet is coming out with one that you could also do that, but I saw the coming soon, like $560 or something like that. Rig Expert, you can do it right now. It has a little mini USB on it.
Yep.
Grab the information and then you can use it on your computer.
I've got one of those, and the Rig Experts, they're excellent.
Yeah.
They're amazing.
Yeah, I mean, when I was fooling around with the gutter antenna, I went through and I was doing my own scans, recording the frequencies, and just it's not tough to do it in an Excel spreadsheet and then just draw a graph myself. But the Rig Expert would have been a lot faster at that also.
One of the nice things that I like about the Rig Expert is you can take 7, I think mine does 5 or 6 different frequencies or different bands. You pick a frequency on that band and it'll scan them all simultaneously and tell you what the SWR meter is on that. And then again, you can drop it to the computer, or you can just look at it there and go, okay, there we go. I know this is going to be good here. Oh, it's a little bit rough here. Oh, it's not good here. And so, yeah, those Rig Experts are really nice. But Comet's got a great product as well. So, excellent.
Yeah. I was going to mention, Scott, that you have that Rig Expert, because we've used that a few times out in the field. That thing is, they're pricey, but when I first got into the hobby, I didn't understand the importance of having an antenna analyzer. And if you're looking to buy, there are some others. If anybody's like going, wow, I'd really like to get one of these because I know it helped, that ham radio operator in my life, but that's some big change. Go and leave something in the comments about that, because there are some others that aren't quite as pricey. that you can get that really do help. But yet that rig expert, they're really the leader in the industry right now. Wouldn't you say, Scott?
I think they are, because like the one that I've got, the Rig Expert AA55, and I think they've got one that's the 230 that even does more and covers more. The AA55 is only HF, so it doesn't do UHF, VHF. Whereas some of the newer models or the later models do UHF and VHF as well. So they are definitely the leader in the industry.
Okay, now we're going to make a big jump here. I'm going to come back to Steve for your 250 plus.
Well, we've gone to the no longer stocking stuffer, and Joe, I have to admit that this was a present to myself, and that's the Icom 7300.
Oh yes.
Oh my.
Oh yes.
I'll tell you, that is a fine radio, and even for somebody who is in the beginnings of this. Now, Joe, you mentioned sound reproduction or sound reinforcement and recording. I know Bob Heil from Heil Microphones, from the Wall of Sound with the Grateful Dead and all that. Huge amount of respect for him. I've worked as a recording engineer myself. Being able to put filters in and put filters out as far as shaping what you're going to amplify for your own listening is huge. Absolutely huge. When you get into a pile-up situation during a contest and you're just trying to just wedge in as much power as possible where it's going to count rather than over a broad area. The filtering on that's amazing.
Yep. And
again, the guy who likes visual stuff, Joe's going to put a picture in on this. The visual display on that is just amazing.
Yes, it is.
Part of me says it's a crutch, okay, for a new guy, okay, but when I can be listening at one point in a band and look at the waterfall of where the signals are coming down, and it's like, oh, okay, let me go get over to that real quick. And I'm doing this because of the finger dial. That has increased my context because, during contests, during even just hunting around and trying to figure out if there's anybody out there, having that visual representation has been just enormous. Yeah. That's just a couple of the things that this thing does. Yeah. It has a workable SWR meter in it. It's not quite as fancy, but it's there. Being able to make modifications to your voice or to the audio that you're transmitting and shaping that. It's just, boy,
it has amazing audio.
You need a big stocking to put in there.
Yes.
Well, and using a waterfall, one guy's crutch is another guy's trekking pole. It's one of those, if you're into, or that ham that you're going to be buying this gift for, if they're into DXing or contesting, or even rag chewing, that waterfall is invaluable because you can see it. And I wouldn't call it invaluable for emergency communication, but I would certainly say it's helpful. It helps you visually see what's going on around where you're trying to transmit and receive. And again, setting those filters, I'm going to go kind of pedantic here. Again, doing live audio. I mean, I cut my teeth live audio, recording audio on all analog gear. And now, I use a lot of digital gear. It used to be when you were EQing something, you just looked at knobs that you were spinning. But now you can actually see the waveform, you can see what you're filtering. And yeah, it can be a crutch that, I know some guys will look at it and they'll go, oh, well, all of my waveform looks good. Why doesn't it sound good? That you're going too far that way. But it really is helpful to it reaffirms by sight what I'm hearing. And it can be the same thing when you're using a waterfall with an SDR, a software-defined radio. So that's some of what Steve is talking about, is that being able to see and it reaffirm what you think you're hearing. So the same way as, I can rely on a crutch, but I'll tell you, out there in Colorado, Steve, when you're hiking and you have trekking poles, it's really nice. It saves on the knees, it's not a luxury. It really is something that helps you out with what you need to accomplish. And that waterfall can do the same thing.
Yeah, especially if I'm carrying like 40 pounds of radio equipment on my back.
Oh yeah. Now, Scott, I'm going to steal some of your thunder here on what you did for like some bonus stuff.
Okay.
Because this is something I didn't put in my blog post. And as soon as I saw that you put this down here, I went, oh, well, duh. All right. For those of you who stayed to the end of the video, I'm going to give you your get out of jail free card. And the emphasis on the word card. If you don't know what to do, just get them a gift card. And Scott, you probably know a place where they could get a gift card. Where?
Well, there's a couple, but the one that I recommend the most is if you watch the last video that Joe and I did, gigaparts.com. They've got gift cards. You can get them in any dollar amount that you want. And so you don't know exactly what to get a gift card for them from there. And Joe, I don't know, you want to throw this last one in there too?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this one because this is one that I definitely will have some more about this in the blog post.
So, I was kind of browsing around because of the fact that, like Joe said a couple of times, I've got a lot of antennas. I've got a lot of jumpers. I've got barrel connectors. I've got caps. I've got a lot of this stuff. I've got an SWR meter. So I was looking for, what would be a unique gift that if I was, somebody said, hey, I want to get you a gift. What do I get you? Go to Etsy. It's amazing how unique of a gift you can get for somebody, and go to Etsy and just do a search for ham radio. There's a link, etsy.com/market/ham_radio. And you can go there and it'll give you all sorts of ideas, from coffee mugs to t-shirts to mouse pads to, I saw all kinds of stuff there. Lighted call signs, all kinds of stuff. And so you can say, I just don't know what to get. You'll find something there. And again, the default, the can't still decide, the gift card always wins.
Yeah, it does. Hey, Steve, did I miss any of your stuff? I was going through the list here. Did I miss any of your suggestions?
No, we kind of backed into the one about the gutter antenna, but I think you got everything. I appreciate it.
Dynamite. Hey, Scott, did I miss any of yours?
Well, the only one that I didn't put on here, Joe, was that if you do any events with Joe, you need to get him a pair of gloves so that he doesn't get mic bite from the microphone. So just keep that in mind. Gloves always work too.
Okay, I fought the urge all the way through this to bring up Puerto Rico.
I know, but that's okay. I still am going to bring up the mic bite. So.
All right. Well, all right. Now here we go. This is like shameless self-promotion. I'm only going to bring one to the table. If you have a ham radio operator in your life who doesn't have their general ticket yet, go to outdoorcore.com and get the general course. Have you finished the general course yet, Steve?
My life got a little busy, like real busy, right after I signed up for it. But with full intention, I plan on going through it. Your guys' tutelage in the novice ticket was just great, because it really helped me with things that I knew from doing other stuff, but kind of linked it right into what was going on with amateur radio. It was a great course, and so far the general course has been excellent. Really.
Thanks. Yeah, that is one other, and there is a link for that in the blog post as well. I've mentioned the blog post several times. You'll see some of my ideas there that fit into these same categories. with links there. Some of them are Amazon links. And by the way, just so that everybody viewing knows, if it is an Amazon link, that is an affiliate link where Valiant Outfitters will receive some of the proceeds to that. I just mentioned that so that it's out in the open. People know those affiliate links. If you're not sure and you want to talk a little bit more, of course, if you go to gigaparts.com, Scott is a product expert for that. And if you leave comments, if you have a specific question, you have one for Steve, you leave it in the comments. I'll make sure to get it to Steve. I'm sure that he'll get an answer to you, especially about that gutter antenna, because that was the one that spoke to my heart, man. When you brought that up, I thought, there we go. That's it. Well, thanks, guys. Anything else before we finish? What did I miss?
I think we got it. And I think the list that we've covered tonight will definitely make some happy stocking stuffers and definitely some happy ham radio operators.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, and I hope nobody's disappointed that they don't get the Icom 7300.
There's always New Year's.
That's right. There you go.
All right, guys. Well, thanks. I sure do appreciate it.
Have a great night, guys. Thanks.
Good night.